Hey, everybody, it's Greg Harrelson here. And of course, we're coming at you at a little bit of an odd time. I had an obligation earlier today, but we did not want to fail you and skip a week. So Abe and I are here, better late than ever. So Abe, before we get started, let me just say thank you for adjusting your schedule and let's get it on.
My pleasure, Greg. Let's do it.
All right. So we are, I'm always checking to make sure that we're live in the Facebook page. If any of you are listening and you have a question or a comment, please just go to the comment section, put it in there, and Abe and I will do everything we can to answer and to address any of the concerns or questions that you have. We're going to talk now about optimizing your lead conversion. I think this is such a great timing, Abe, for this conversation, because one of the issues with a shifting market is agents start to worry about their expenses. And so in a very hot market, people don't notice and they don't think about conversion. Like if they buy a bunch of leads and they make a sale here and there, it feels like they're making money. But when there's a shift in a market, people are a little bit more concerned about making sales, getting listings, getting contracts. All of a sudden they start turning their attention to expenses. And they start cutting their expenses. And one of the things that they do is they cut their lead expense. Before you cut your lead expense, I'm not saying that you shouldn't or you should, but before you do, I think you need to go through the things that Abe and I are going to talk about here and focus on optimizing your conversion. Because some people are going to cut their lead expense and they're going to have no leads. And that's going to put them in a much worse position for a shifting market. If you want to maintain your lead flow, if not even increase it, but let's just talk about maintaining it. But I acknowledge that we all need to get more out of it. So we maintain our lead flow, whatever our lead budgets are, maintain that, but turn your attention to optimizing your conversion so you can start making a greater ROI. Things like Real Geeks. Real Geeks is a tool. And quite frankly, it's one of the least expensive tools that is on the marketplace. And I'm shocked that they didn't raise their prices many, 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 many years ago. But for some reason, they didn't. And I know that they did recently, and some people are upset about it. But like the difference that it's made in my return on my investment is barely measurable. Now, it could mean a difference if I'm not like converting, but that's not the tool's responsibility. Conversion is the agent's responsibility. And Real Geeks or any IDX that you should look at it as an investment seeking a return, not an expense. So let's talk about it, Abe. Talk about optimizing lead conversion, because a little tweak, a little improvement in your lead conversion can bring you thousands of dollars on a monthly basis. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, let me add one more thing, because I think with the way the market's shifting right now, what I'm seeing is, yes, individual agents, smaller agents are like scrambling to cut expenses or quote unquote expenses. To me, lead flow is not an expense, it's an investment. But then what I'm seeing, the flip side is I'm seeing the bigger teams, the brokerages are actually increasing their spend because they're scrambling because they've got so many buyers agents and they got a bigger teams to actually feed leads to. So they're having to spend more money to generate leads. So I think in either case, this conversation is going to be about, okay, what are you going to do with the leads that you have and are generating, whether you're scaling back or whether you're increasing? It's still going to be the same strategy on what you should do with those, because you want to maximize your return on investment, as Greg mentioned earlier.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're making an investment and we want a return. Right?
Absolutely.
So tell us, why don't you start?
Yes, I mean, I think it's going to sound actually fairly simple. All right, we're going to talk about two things.
That's the difficult part. The difficult part is taking something simple and actually executing. Real estate agents are we're known for trying to tackle the difficult and then never completion. And there's never completion. what we ought to do is tackle the simple and complete the circles.
Absolutely. So it's going to be two things. Number one, you're going to be more profitable by talking to more of the leads when they first come in, right? And then step number two, after you've talked with them after they come in, you have to keep them engaged. And we're going to show you strategies, discuss strategies that help you with both, talking to them more upfront and then also keeping them engaged in the long run, because we all know, we look at the stats, okay, a certain percentage is going to convert in the first year, but then what happens is agents let them go, and what they're doing is missing out the second year and the third year when the rest of the leads actually do convert, right? I think you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Like, what's the average? Like 3% in the first year, and then maybe 2% a year two, and then 3% a year three. So you can double or triple your return on investment by keeping them engaged over a 2 or 3 year period. So let's start with,
before you get started, I want to make sure that we dive in this to just another second.
Yeah.
When you and I were talking about 3% conversion ratio, that is not normal, by the way. So normal in the industry is probably less than 1% conversion ratio. Mm-hmm. I will say, we'll call it 1% just to exaggerate a little bit. 3% is really solid. Like, the people that are at 3% are doing well above average, and anybody that's getting in that 5 or 6 range, it's nearly unheard of. Yeah. So, but what we were discussing is, what we found is, a lot of times you could easily get 3% your first year, and then out of the same leads get another 2% the next year, and then the third year we see the third year conversion is very similar to first year conversion, and so there's another 3%. So technically, out of all the leads that you're buying in 3 years, probably 8 to 9% actually convert. So a lot of people are in that 1% range. So you can see there's a lot of opportunity if we spend time optimizing our lead conversion strategies.
Yeah. So when the lead providers tell you should convert 8 to 10% of the leads, it's true. They're just not telling you that's going to happen in the first 30 days.
Yes.
Right? It's over a 3 year period of you following up with them. So let's start with, increasing the number of people you talk with initially, right? So how do you increase that percentage? We call it the capture to contact ratio. Okay. Instead of looking at the bottom line and how many deals you actually got out of that lead source, what you should be focused on is how many leads from that lead source did I generate, and what percentage did I end up talking to? Okay. That number, your goal, it's not going to sound realistic, but it should be 100%. Your goal is to find a way to get some sort of response from every single one of those leads, even if it's a leave me the hell alone, don't ever call me again. That's a response. So your goal should be going in and getting a response from every single one of those. So a couple of strategies to do that, Greg. What would you recommend?
Well, first of all, I just want to say this is realistic. It sounds unrealistic, but this is realistic. You can get a minimum of 70% engagement and response out of your new leads. And most people are getting below 20%. So that's a form of optimization. We'll get into the how, and I'll answer that in a second. Yeah. But this is what optimization means. If you're only talking to 18 out of 100, and you can now double that and talk to, say, 36 out of 100, that's optimization. You're going to double your conversion rate because you doubled the amount of people that you talk to out of the same 100 people. Ad spend, the cost of the leads for 100 is the same whether you talk to them or not. Optimizing is talking to twice as many, 3 times as many. So the first thing that we know, and I did not invent this. What was it? Chris Smith, I think, is the first person that I ever heard say this. And he had something called the conversion code. I think it was his book. And he talked about the double dial technique, which is double dial, which is call them. If they don't answer, hang up, don't leave a voicemail, immediately dial them again. Just because you called them a second time and they see it show up a second time immediately, the percent of times that they pick up on the second time, you add that to the percent of people that picked up the first time, and you've just now increased how many people you talk to. And that right there will take you seconds to do. Now, if they don't pick up on the second ring, you can text them, because we added to his double dial strategy, we added DDT, which is double dial text. And what we found is that people would text us. We'd call them twice, no answer, text them, and they would call and they would text us back. And instead of saying, stop calling me, which is very rare that they'd ever say that, they said things like this. Oh, I'll call you after work. I'm not supposed to be on my phone at work.
That's the common answer.
I'm in a meeting. I'll call you later. It was always a very positive response, but now we've got engagement. And then I could say, okay, no worries. In the meantime, I'm going to send you a couple links, a couple properties I want you to check out, similar to the one that you looked at. And then they text back and say, oh, great. And then you send them two properties via text, and all of a sudden they start communicating with you. And now what we've done is we've got somebody to talk to us and engage with us that probably never would have called us back if we had left them a voicemail.
And a lot of times, Greg, that conversation, that reply from them starts with, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I'm at work right now. Can I get back to you later? I haven't been ignoring you. So look, let's be real here. A lot of the viewers out there are going to say, yeah, we've heard this a million times. We've heard the double dial text a million times. I don't care. I don't care that you've heard it a million times. My question to you is, are you doing it? Right? Because most agents are not. Are you reaching 60 or 70% of your new leads? Are you communicating with them? And most of you are not, because you're not following through on the whole process. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Follow through on the whole process. If you don't double dial, you're going to reach about 10 to 15% of them. Just double dialing alone is going to get you to about 35 to 40%. Double dial text is going to get you to somewhere in the 60% plus. So when Greg was talking about earlier, it's realistic. Yes, 60% to 70% is a no-brainer. If you're not doing that right now, you're missing a boat.
Yeah.
Okay. When I said 100% might not be achievable, that should still be your goal. Your ambition, your goal should be, I want to talk to every single one. And if you happen to land on 80%, then great. You've tripled or quadrupled your business.
Yeah. You know, and the bottom line is 60, 70, 80% of leads are going to be communicated with. It's just that it's who communicates with them is fragmented. So they sign up for 3 websites. The first one that actually calls them, now they ignore the other 2 people that are calling them. So if we look at the 100 leads, it's going to be who actually gets them first. They're all going to be gotten to. These people are not volunteering their personal information, contact information, if they're not interested in talking to somebody. So the whole thing with the double dial, the text, make sure we're calling them repeatedly. That's just to get to them before our competition does. Because if our competition gets to them, then we get ghosted. We need to get ghosted on fewer of the leads that we're capturing. Now, of course, we didn't even talk about workflows, Abe. What about that?
Yeah. So then after that, you kick off a workflow, right?
Yes.
And it's the same workflow we talked about a million times. No contact after the first attempt. It's there. It's free. It's in your library. If you're not using it, click the button, download it to your Real Geeks account, and start using it. If you do those simple things, double dial, you can text or no text. It doesn't matter. If you're going to kick off a workflow, you don't even have to do the text. You can do a double dial, kick off a workflow. You're going to be in a 60 to 80% capture rate. Now, if you make couple of more attempts the next day manually, you're going to be up in the 80% range. And look, you've already bought the leads. You've already spent the money on the leads. We're not talking about more spend. We're talking about getting more money, extracting more profit out of the same amount of spend. So that's the first step. Talk to more of the leads the moment that they come into your system.
Yeah. A shifting market is not the time to let resistance keep you from moving forward. So like in a hot market, everyone was doing certain levels of business, a little bit better than normal. Okay. But in a shifting market, you have a lot of people doing less and a few people doing more. And the only difference between the few people that do more in a shifting market versus those that do less in a shifting market is that the people who are afraid to make the call, they decide to actually make the call. Therefore, they grow in a shifting market. So we're all going to have some sort of resistance, or I don't want to bother people. I get it. But we can sit here and keep saying that and watch our businesses go down. Now, the person that actually calls them a few times is actually not looked at by the consumer as bothering them. Not at all. That's just our hallucination. But the difference is the people who will execute in a shifting market will thrive. And the people who don't execute on these types of things will be struggling to survive. That's just the way these cycles go.
So Ashley had a question. What happens when they just leave their email address? Do you look them up in Exacto?
I mean, I would. If they're opting in for your leads, they're opting in to your website.
It's a simple reverse search by their email address. You get their phone number, you give them a call, kick off a workflow. Very simple. So get that number up to as high as you could possibly get it, 60, 70, 80%. I think last time I checked with Lindsay, we're about 80%, Greg, in our company. Yeah. So that's the first step. Now, when you talk to them, of course, they're not all going to be like, yes, I'm ready to buy a property right now, right? You're going to have a certain percentage that are, but the majority are going to be, no, I'm not ready yet. So now the second part of this is, how do you keep them engaged, right? What you don't want to do is like, oh, they're just not, these leads stink. I'm not going to, just let them go. What you want to do is put them into some sort of nurture system, some sort of process that you have in keeping up with your leads. Tag them, segment them. I mean, Real Geeks, they changed their urgencies recently. It's a great way to be able to tag your leads and segment them so you can keep up with them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at a report, Abe, the other day. Actually, it was yesterday. And, we have some virtual assistants that are working behind the scenes in our database that are constantly kicking off workflows for us, kicking off some text templates, some email templates. We've got these whole robust strategy for a virtual assistant team to go in and work our database. And every day, literally every single day of the week, our team is finding opportunities. Now, an opportunity is, we call a hot buyer, which is somebody who communicates to us that they're looking to do something within the next 30 days. And then we have a what we call an interested buyer, which is somebody that's going to do something, say, in 30 to 90 days. And then what we have is a warm buyer, somebody that's going to do something outside of 90 days. So we have these categories. And every single day, the VAs, 5 days a week, go through the database and they find hot buyers, interested buyers, and warm buyers out of our dead leads, out of the non-responsive leads. That means people that have been in our website and they're not opening up our emails. They're not clicking on any links. They're not favoriting any properties. They're not saving any properties. They're just pretty much what everyone would say is dead. They don't exist.
They're not breathing.
They're not breathing, right? And then all of a sudden we kick off these workflows, and every single day, my virtual assistant ends up reassigning a lead out of the pond to a real estate agent. And now they have somebody that they're excited about working. Now, most of you don't have enough people in your database to be thinking about VA teams and all that other stuff. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. The point is, every day we find a new opportunity in our own database. That's all. The workflow just grabbed their attention again. All of your dead leads are not dead leads. They're dead to you, alive for someone else. All of your non-responsive leads are not non-responsive. They're not responding to you. They're responding to someone else. All of your disengaged leads are not disengaged. They're fully engaging on someone else's website. You use workflows to grab their attention and pull them back over to you so they're alive, responsive, and fully engaged. This is called optimizing your lead conversion.
So simple, right? So here's what you need to start doing. There's two numbers you need to start tracking. Okay. Number one is your capture to contract ratio. Just start a little spreadsheet, super simple, just 2 numbers that you need: number of leads that you generate, and then how many people you talk to out of that those lead gen. Okay, so if you generated 100 people this month, you spoke to 60 of them, or got a response from 60 of them, your capture to contract ratio percentage is 60%. Okay, so start tracking that and see if that improves month over month. Your goal, talking with your team, your buyer's agency, whoever, is to improve that number month after month. Okay, that in itself will do wonders for your business. The second number you need to start tracking is what percentage of your database is actually active. Okay, so do a search of who's been active in the last 90 days. Okay, I think 90 days is a good window. You agree? 90 days
Yes,
is good?
I think it's a great window.
What percentage, and see how many are active. Then divide that by the number of total leads in your database. That's going to give you another percentage. That's it. And then keep finding ways, like, a re-engagement campaign. That's also in your library. Use that to get more and more people engaged. So over time, your goal is to increase both of those numbers. If you can increase your capture to contract percentage, if you can increase your active leads percentage relative to your database, your business is only going to grow. It sounds so simple, and it really is so simple, but doing it on a daily basis, just like a diet, just like going to the gym, people tend to just kind of skip too many days. It's that simple if you want to grow your profits.
Yeah. I mean, that's good, Abe. I think, just to kind of wrap it up, is right now more important than ever, because of shifting market, because pendings are down. And I hope every one of you are having the best year of your career. But the reality is pendings are down across the country. So most people are feeling the shift. And what we have to do is we need to remain emotionally strong, mentally strong through this process. And what I'm referring to is, before you start getting worried and trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to cut expenses? You should immediately turn to, how am I going to increase my returns? See, that's the glass is half full versus the glass being half empty. I can promise you, if we start thinking glass is half empty, we will just get to the bottom faster. If we're thinking glass is half full, and that's the perspective, that's the mindset, then we given ourselves a much better chance to grow our business through these changing times. So don't fear the market. Don't fear your market. Just make some changes in the way that you're doing things, and we'll be fine. So, Abe, that's about it for me.
Sounds good. That's all I've got.
Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much. And thank you again for understanding that we had a previous engagement, so we didn't do it at our scheduled time. But I hope that you do appreciate that we still got it done. And I know a lot of you can watch this recording. So, Abe, thank you. And we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you all for watching.